Hey there, it's me, Brett Fish. Welcome to another episode of Race with Me, and this is the last of our refresher episodes as we look back over some of the ideas we've looked at in greater depth. And so here are 9 more ideas that you can do as a white person with regards to race in South Africa. So just looking briefly at the last 9 ideas that we looked at before I started these refresher videos. The first one was the idea that South Africa is a black country. And when white people make up 8% or whatever it is of the population, and yet still, like I think for many of us as a white person, we still have some kind of notion that South Africa is a white country, then that can be very unhelpful. Obviously it's not true. But there are so many things that probably make it seem true or make it feel true to us. And I think one of the things that will help us to be better at fighting for justice for all people will be if we start to realize and think of South Africa as a black country. It's majority black people. Is the country working for the majority of its people? And in many cases, the answer is no. And so just that mindset flip can be helpful for us. We spoke about this idea of living wage versus minimum wage, that if you have somebody working for you, cleaning your house or looking after your garden or maybe even looking after your kids, are you paying them the bare minimum? Are you trying to get away with what you can get away with paying them? Or are you having conversations with them? Are you finding out what for them a living wage looks like? And it's not about prying into their money matters, but it's making sure that what you pay them and maybe what others pay them, if they're working for other people, is enough for them to live well, not just survive. And how we need to really lean into that, and maybe understanding a bit about what their dreams are, what would they like to do with their lives, what about their kids and their schooling and things like that, and seeing if we need to commit to paying what looks a lot more like a living wage than just a minimum wage. We spoke about this idea of interrupting racism wherever and whenever we see it, the hashtag not on our watch. And basically this daily commitment that I am going to interrupt racism wherever I see it, whether it's online or offline, in WhatsApp groups, at a family conversation with strangers around a braai. I'm not going to let racism pass by and somebody thinking this is an okay space for me to say this, for me to do this, for me to have this attitude. And so it's a commitment every day to interrupt racism. And then the one that was after that, we talked about calling out stuff in uncomfortable moments. And so it builds on this idea of not on our watch. And so maybe the idea of a family meal or a family WhatsApp group, somebody says something that feels racist or prejudiced or stereotyped, for us to be able to interrupt it and go, that is not okay. Let me explain why. And when we have relationship with the people, friends, family, colleagues, it might be a lot easier for us. It might be a lot harder in some cases. But there's relationship capacity, capital. And we probably have a better chance than other people to be able to say, that's not okay, let me explain why. We can do it gently, we can do it graciously, but we refuse to let racism pass by uninterrupted. We spoke about pitching in, listening, and asking questions to friends of color. And how, as a basis for this, we need some kind of relationship and trust. And so when something significant happens in the world, we all saw the George Floyd incident last year. We saw that Kamala Harris recently became the first black woman to be vice president of the United States, using moments like that to check in with black friends and say, how do you feel about that? What has this done? Does it have any meaning or significance? And using those as an opportunity to understand more, to learn more, to get a different perspective. And like I said, there needs to be trust and relationship. You can't just go to a random black stranger and be like, hey, so how did this George Floyd incident hit you? It is us building on spaces where we have relationship, but pitching up, making sure that we're checking in with them when things happen that could be race related or are race related, just checking in with how they're doing, how they're feeling, how they're coping, and asking, is there anything I can do? Is there anything you need from me at this point in time? And the idea that it's a privilege for white people to talk about race when we want to. It's a privilege for me to be able to go, oh, I'm tired, I don't feel like talking about race today. Whereas a black person, a colored person, an Indian person can't just turn off race-related incidents or comments or attitudes, because it is constantly in their face. It's constantly happening to them. It's constantly around them. And so my commitment needs to be to continue to pitch up, to continue to question, to engage, to learn, to listen, even when I get tired or don't feel like it, because getting tired about speaking about race is so much less than being prejudiced against, being racisted against, all that kind of thing. And so I need to commit to showing up and pitching up. We spoke about volunteering and how that can be such a huge thing, especially for some of you who might not have good black, colored, and Indian friends, that I can start volunteering at a place that's got a diverse membership or a diverse amount of people that are volunteering. So my colleagues in that space will be people that I can become friends with, but also perhaps going into areas that I'm not used to, areas that I don't live in and maybe haven't visited, and find an NGO that works in those areas that will give me a safe capacity, but also like instead of just wandering into a township, by volunteering with an organization that works in a township, that will give me a much better opportunity to see what things are like there, to be able to make a difference, hopefully not coming in as a white savior to fix everything, but just being present and being there to learn. So for example, I volunteer with an organization called Bottom Up, and sometimes with one called Life Matters Foundation, and both of them work in schools, and particularly in Cape Town in the Cape Flats or the greater Grassy Park area. And so that has given me some kind of insight or perspective or presence in those areas, starting to meet people, starting to make friends, starting to build relationship and understand other areas of South Africa that I might only see on the news or in newspapers or in stories. Now it helps me to have a better understanding of them. And then we looked at this whole idea of all Black Lives Mattering, and just this idea of understanding and unpacking a little bit what people mean when they say or campaign for Black Lives Matter. That it doesn't mean that all lives don't matter, that it doesn't mean that white lives don't matter, but just that there's never been a need for people to campaign for white lives to matter, because white lives have always mattered. They've typically mattered more than other lives. And so in this instance, in this moment, we need to put a spotlight on Black lives to show that they matter and to change and affect society so that they can matter as much as white lives. Anyway, that's a bit of a catch-up of the last 9 videos that I made, and we have 21 more to go before we have 50 ideas for white people who are asking, what can I do with regards to race in South Africa? I hope that you found this helpful. I hope this little catch-up has refreshed things, has brought things to mind again, and if not, go back and watch the full videos and catch up on them. I hope you will continue to share these and invite other people into these conversations with you. And even of these last 9 ideas, which one felt like the hardest one for you to lean into? Go and chat to your friends. Maybe there's a black friend you can speak to and say, hey, Brett said this. Brett thought this was a good idea. What do you think? Is this helpful? Is this a good idea? Maybe it's not. Engage with your friends. This is something that I'm trying to do. This is something I'm working on. What do you think about that? Thank you for hanging out with me. New videos and these final 21 are going to be on the way, and I hope you'll be watching. Cheers.